My name is Andy Alvillar. March 31st, 2013 was Easter Sunday. It was the first time I came to the Rock Church of the Coachella Valley. At that time, I was battling a brain tumor that was located on my brain stem. Ever since I walked in those doors, I haven't left.
So January 2nd, 2013, I landed in LAX. I went to an interview with Comstock Homes in Huntington Beach. Shortly after I was given the position, I went back home, which was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and packed up everything and drove from Baton Rouge to California, Palm Desert. And Lorrie and the kids stayed in Baton Rouge for a couple of reasons. One, we didn't have any money to relocate the family at that time. Two is they did give me some relocation package, but it wasn't going to be given to me for 90 days. So essentially I was on probation. So I told Lorrie, see you on the flip side. And I drove to Palm Desert. And shortly thereafter, I was already feeling really, really sick. The doctor told me, as soon as you get back, make an appointment with a neurologist. And it's exactly what I did not want to hear. I didn't want to hear those words. I was very fearful of that statement. So needless to say, when I got here, I got back, I went and met with the neurologist. And they saw this tumor.
I was gonna show you guys. You can see here where this black area shows the tumor actually sat right here, pretty much right in that area there, which is my stem, which connects my spine to your brain. And what happens is there's a cerebral flow. The flow is transferred from your spine into your brain, and it's just a constant flow. Well, because the tumor sat on top of my spine and my brain were having a hard time talking to each other, which was impacting my motor skills. I could barely walk. So some people argue I can barely walk now, but anyway, there's no more tumor. So there's my doctor and I, actually just a couple of months ago. So pretty cool. When I initially got out of surgery, I used to get MRIs every 6 months. Now it's my next one isn't for 2 years, and then after that one, I probably will never have to get another one again, man. So pretty cool. By the way, this woman is an amazing woman. Esther, she works for Dr. Limonati. When I first got here, she's the one that brought me in, right, Esther? And I could barely walk. I remember her holding me and comforting me, and so every time I come now, I get to see Esther. Normally she's taking pictures because it's always selfie time when I take a picture with Dr. Limonati. So I just want to make sure that Esther's part of this documentary, because my picture is, my story isn't complete without Esther here.
Thank you.
So.
When he initially told me he didn't want me to go with him to that doctor's visit, I was hurt because I felt like I needed to be there for him in case the prognosis was a brain tumor. He previously went to doctor's appointments by himself, so I guess he figured I'd take it okay. When he did call me and say, guess what, it is the brain tumor, it was like a punch in the stomach. I started yelling. I was like, I told you I needed to be there with you, because that's not something I think anyone wants to hear by themselves. You know, you have a brain tumor. And so I yelled at him and told him I should have been there. You know, I'm his wife. But initially, I'm yelling at him, and he just had something told to him that was devastating. So after I composed myself, I I felt like if I showed Andy that I was scared, or my kids, I just had to be the strong one.
I told my wife, hey, we need to get back in church. So I got online and I found the Rock, and I started looking at their beliefs, and I told my wife, hey, this church, they believe what we believe. I looked at the it's like Meet the Pastors, and they had like pictures, and they didn't look like crazy people, so they looked cool. So Lorrie and I went, like the typical awesome Christians that we were at the time. We went on Easter, and I remember walking in. I remember how awesome the people were, just how they greeted us, how the greeters loved on us. How they made us feel. But when we left, I remember asking, I asked Lorrie, hey Lorrie, how do you like it? She's like, I love it. And she said, how do you like it? I'm like, it was good. It was cool. It was different than what church that I had been to in the past. Well, the following week we were gonna go, and I was too sick. I was starting, because of the tumor, I was starting to vomit a lot, and I was really sick. So we were gonna go the following Sunday, but I wasn't able to. So the week after, we got up to go to church, and Lorrie was already making coffee, and I got up and I went to brush my teeth. I said, Lord, if you're hearing my prayer, just give me a sign. From that moment, just turning around, I was going to get in the shower. I had this vision, and I saw all of us worshiping God, and I saw us singing, and I saw Pastor Eddie walk on stage, and I saw him say, is there somebody here? And that's all I saw. That was it. So I took a shower. I remember all of us going to church, and again, it was awesome. I remember worshiping and singing, and I remember raising our hands, and I remember Pastor walking, and I remember for that split moment, I said, wouldn't it be cool if he said exactly what I just saw? And he gets up and he says, he pauses and he starts to pray. And he says, I feel the Lord wants me to say this. And he says, is there somebody here? The God that I serve stopped to answer my prayer. Pastor says, is there somebody here who's sick in their body, that's full of anxiety and stress? The Lord doesn't give us the spirit of fear, but of power, of strength, and a sound mind. And as you could tell, I'm not a very emotional guy. So I was crying. I was crying like a baby, and I was crying so much I was shaking, and I could feel Lorrie like looking at me like, he's talking to you, are you gonna raise your hand? And he kept saying, is there somebody here? And at that moment, the Lord quickened to me, if you're ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of you in front of my Father. So I raised my hand, because I'm not ashamed of him. And Pastor called me up, and he didn't know me, but he called me up and he said, what's going on? And I told him I had this brain tumor, and he prayed for me. And after that day, from that moment, it changed who I was. It changed who my wife was. It changed our complete family. And I remember right after that service, I went and prayed. I went and told Lorrie, through all of this, I want one thing, and I want the Lord to be glorified. I want Him to be glorified through me. And so from that day, I slept well. There was no fear. There was no anxiety. There was no stress. There was no worry about, if I wasn't around, who was going to take care of my wife, my kids. I have 3 kids. I have a daughter and 2 sons. And I didn't worry about who was going to take care of them because I knew the Lord was in control. May 5th, which was a Sunday, my wife and I stayed up. Actually, that Saturday night, I got really, really sick. And we stayed up all night. And I was fighting going to the hospital. And she's like, let me just take you to the hospital.
Well, I kept asking him, please let me take you to the emergency room. Because the doctor said, if you had these symptoms, let's go. And he's like, no, I'll be fine. And he said, let me go take a shower. Maybe I'll feel better. And he comes out and I look at him. I said, so do you feel better? And he lays down. He goes, no, I think you need to call emergency room.
May 8th, I had brain surgery. It was 10 and a half hours.
It's funny, during the 10 hours of his surgery, I wasn't scared. I knew he was going to come out of it. I knew, God had spoken to him, and the faith he had gave me faith. And it's amazing, and it's awesome that he's here. There's times I love him, and God's good.
Awesome. I mean, He's amazing. And 30 days later, I was back at work. 30 days later, I was back running. The God that says, let there be light, answered my prayer. And here we are, all of us, as a result of that God. He's so great. He's so massive. So many times we try to put him into a box. But that God, he's a personal God. He's your God. He's your God. He's your God. And most of all, he's my God. He's my God. And it's such a cool story to think about, because I sat there and Lorrie lived it. But I was sick, and I was like, man, wouldn't that be cool if one day that would be my story? And here we are. God he's an awesome God, and he's worthy of all the praise, and so it's cool. It's really cool. It really is.